Hey everyone, Mr. L here, and welcome to my review of the Artillery Strike in Cold War Zombies. Available in both round-based and Outbreak via either the mystery box or at the crafting table for 150 high-grade salvage. It can also be dropped by special and elite enemies in both Outbreak and Onslaught, with the exception of Onslaught Containment, that is. The Artillery Strike is used by aiming where the giant green target on the ground is pointed. When activated, 5 seconds later, multiple hydrogen bombs will rain down on any unfortunate coughing babies caught in the target area's blast radius. If it isn't clear already, I love the Scorestreaks. The Artillery Strike is pretty damn amazing. Now, when it comes to regular zombies, the Artillery Strike is downright fantastic to use against crowds of zombies. While yes, it does take about 5 seconds for the Artillery Strike to arm, it will turn your horde of zombies into beef chili quick. If you're ever training and hoarding up a bunch of zombies, or exfilling and you need to clear the field for Raptor 1 to land, the Artillery Strike will be your go-to bulldozer to demolish the zombies off the menu. However, if you don't want to die like a dumbass, you have to equip PhD Slider. Since PhD Slider Tier 3 gives you immunity to self-inflicted explosive damage, not to mention that the Artillery Strike fires 8 mortar shells with a big splash radius, all within the span of 10 seconds. So you don't want to be that guy to get blown up by your own strike and get turned into ground beef alongside the zombies.
Oh, they're going to have to glue you back together in hell!
You can also get a free Artillery Strike from the Rocky Defense Control Terminal on Firebase Z during one of the assault waves. When hordes of zombies start to run out of the Ethereum portals, the Artillery Strike will decimate them. Plus, the Artillery Strike is pretty good for taking out zombies, so you can focus fire on the Manglers, Mimics, and Big Chungus. Speaking of, let's take a look at the special and elite enemies. Megaton. You should never use a Scorestreak against the Megaton. The explosive splash damage barely affects this elite enemy, and before anyone says in the comments, "Oh, but you're in Outbreak where the Megaton's health scales up to 1.5 million rather than 60k health in round-based." First off, how do I know this? And to answer that, John Rizzo mentioned in his Forsaken review that the elite health in Outbreak scales up to 1.5 million. Putting health numbers aside, the Artillery Strike still isn't enough to kill a Megaton or the Megaton bombers. Heck, why even bother using it in Outbreak or D-Machine? You are far better off just using your main weapons against the Megaton, rather than coughing up 150 blue salvage. Mimic. This is unfortunately a dud against the Mimics, which is primarily due to their mouths being a small hitbox, which results in the splash damage of the Artillery Strike barely affecting it. So you don't really need to use this Scorestreak against the Mimics. Mangler. The Manglers won't survive the blast of the Artillery Strike. With how sporadic the Artillery Strike is, the mortar strikes are still capable of taking out 2 or more Manglers, so definitely use it on these cannon wielders. Orda. Well, here's my answer to this one to keep it short and sweet. No! The Krosny Soldat. This is disappointing to say the least, because with how random the strikes are, sometimes it will kill a Krosny, sometimes it won't. It's pretty much a dice roll, to put it lightly. But just remember, even if the Artillery Strike won't kill the Krosny immediately, it will still deal enough damage so that you could get the killing blow on the Krosny with one of your base weapons. So use it at your disposal. Tempest. If you're exfilling an Outbreak and you see a Tempest or 2 on the exfil site, use the Artillery Strike on those enemies, but I'm gonna be real. You shouldn't waste a Scorestreak on a Tempi given their teleportation nature, especially in Outbreak. So avoid using the Artillery Strike against this special enemy. Disciples. As long as the Disciples are within range of the Artillery Strike's area of effect, the Disciples will be destroyed by the Artillery Strike's blast. So definitely use a Scorestreak on the Disciples. The Abomination. Just like the War Machine, the Artillery Strike will barely have an impact on the Abomination. You should never use a Scorestreak on this 3-headed behemoth. In the end, the Artillery Strike is much more suited for crowd control. Use it to dispatch the undead whilst you focus fire on the elite enemies, because such enemies like the Megaton and Abomination are not coughing babies and will survive the mortar shells of the Artillery Strike. Come to think of it, the Artillery Strike is pretty much a better version of the Napalm Strike.
You just said each member of the team is chosen for their unique abilities. He does exactly what I do, but better.
Well, that wraps up the Artillery Strike. Join me next time where I'll be reviewing the Cruise Missile.